Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Jeremy Schumacher. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm the Jer in Wellness with Jer. I don't know why my branding is off today. The internet continues to get worse. Thanks for stopping by, hanging out. I'm working my way through The Sopranos. I know it came out in the late 90s, early aughts. I never saw it, so I'm watching it now. And it's a very good show. It's my spoiler-free review. If you haven't watched Sopranos, it's still good. No, I like season 2 a lot more than I liked season 1, even though I think the therapist in season 2 gets a lot worse, and uh, um, the mental health overall is pretty good in the show. The therapy is getting worse, which is a bummer as a therapist, but also it's fine. Because it's not a show specifically about therapy. Although, like, I do feel like therapy is sort of a core concept in the show. It's not quite what moves the plot along, but it provides a lot of structure for the show. So anyway, spoilers ahead for a show that came out 25 years ago. Yeah, season 2, I think Malfi is worse, the psychiatrist that Tony sees. Um, at the end of season 1, she leaves town. She's seeing people out of a hotel room. Comes back. She refuses to see Tony for a while, which maybe is like a thing I can agree with her on. Again, I think therapists can and should fire clients from time to time. I think if we didn't live in such a late stage capitalistic hellhole, that therapists would be a lot better about self-selecting which clients they want to work with. And again, this isn't like whether or not we like the people we work with. I would lean towards most therapists who like their clients. And the reality is not every client is a good fit for every therapist. Just like, and I think this is a little bit more widespread, and I think people do a better job with this, that not all therapists are a good fit for each client. You should shop around for a therapist to find somebody who you vibe well with. And ideally, that therapist is only taking clients who are sort of in their wheelhouse for what they can work with. So, yeah, Melfi being like, I can't work with this is probably good. And then she goes back on that, and then things sort of go off the rails. But it's not unrealistic that a therapist would have a substance use problem and it would get exacerbated by a specific client. I and I do think it is unreal. All right, so it could happen. I'm sure it has happened. It has to be such a shocking rarity. And that's the problem with therapy in Hollywood, in shows and movies, is therapy, when it's done well, is kind of boring. In the same way that like baseball is kind of boring. Like something amazing could happen, and it's unnecessary to watch every out of every single game, even of the team you like, let alone of every single team. Um, that's sort of therapy. Like those eureka moments, those ahas, those light bulb moments, they happen and they're super awesome. And it's a lovely thing to be a part of as a therapist. I love my job and I'm very honored and privileged to go on a mental health journey with my clients. And most of the work happens outside of the therapy room, first and foremost. And secondly, like the work that is in session is not always super translatable to exciting TV. So what Hollywood does is like, let's make the therapist go crazy or fall in love with their client or start doing drugs in session or whatever. It's very like, I don't know. I've never had a mobster. I think I can say that for confidentiality reasons. But I've worked with people who were doing crimes. I've never worked with a East Coast mobster. I've worked with people who are in gangs. I've worked with people who are recently got out of prison. I've worked with people who are afraid they're going to prison. I I'm not saying therapists are insulated from being threatened or harmed. I'm a 6'3" dude. Uh, like I'm a bigger guy for my physical safety. I don't really think about it all that often in the therapy room. Um, but Melfi like loses her mind about the concept of Tony more than anything that happens in the room. And I think that's my hang up on it is like we therapists can have tough cases. We can have cases that bring up our own shit. She just like loses her mind over the fact that he's a mobster. And like, I don't know. I don't know. I said it could happen. It just seems very unrealistic. And the way she handles it feels very unrealistic. I really detest her therapist, who's just like super judgy about you shouldn't see this person because they're in the mob. And it's like, you shouldn't see this person because they're in the mob and they threatened you or that impacted your safety or that gets in the way of the therapeutic relationship or any number of, but like, it's just judgy about the mob. And again, like, where are people supposed to go if not therapy to get help? Like, if somebody genuinely wants to be better, if somebody wants to learn something, get better about something, do that. And I'm not saying therapy is a cure all, just suggesting that like not every therapist has to work with this population. And there need to be some therapists who do work with this population because this population also needs mental health care. And so to have two therapists who are like shitty about it, it does make sense to me that they're both like psychiatrists because I don't think highly of psychiatrists and the work that they do. Because most psychiatrists, even if they're great at their job, are doing med checks because of the system we're in. So it's really hard to be a good psychiatrist in the system we have. And there's just a lot of shit psychiatrists out there. I think psychiatrists can get away with being bad at their jobs because people need medication in a way that therapists can't. So I've had lots of psychiatrists say lots of shitty things to clients, and the client keeps seeing them. It's like, I hope my clients would stop seeing me or fire me if I said like half of the things that psychiatrists say. So anyway, all that is to say, Melfi gets worse as a character and as a representation of what therapy is. So she starts drinking. Her therapeutic questions just get a lot worse, and she's kind of like, she's not wrong about Tony's stuff being related to his family and specifically his mom. She just goes about it so clumsily. And like maybe it's because she's doing shots of vodka before he comes in and her brain's not working that well. But like she's not a good therapist. She's a psychiatrist, right? But she's not good at this. And in season one, I thought she was better at it. And she's gotten worse at it. And I think she's in her head about Tony being a mobster. There are ways to tease out some of this family stuff. There are ways to be kind and gentle about it. There are ways to be soft about it. There are ways to be inquisitive and curious and trauma informed about it. And she's just none of those things. And again, I get the show is 25 years old, so therapy has come a long way. Like, I'm not expecting a show from the 2000s to talk about trauma or use trauma informed language, right? That's unreasonable on my part as a viewer. And it's just so klutzy. She's become a caricature of what a therapist could be in a way that I think she could have been a really well fleshed out character. So that is a bummer. And overall, like I was like hooked in season 2, right? Like the show itself is very good and like you're pretty invested in all these different moving parts. And like the parts are it's a big cast of characters, and sometimes there are things that are a little rushed or a little janky. But by and large, like I thought season 2 was really good. Tony's paranoia around who's the informant and whether or not he can trust Pussy. Pussy being a mobster here, not a euphemism for a vagina. It is, whatever. It's his nickname. And it's interesting because we know Pussy is an informant, and so it's interesting to sort of watch Tony's paranoia spiral about it when he's correct. But again, I think that stress Tony feels is definitely triggered by his family and the family drama. His sister getting married to a mobster who just got out of jail, who's causing all sorts of issues, and his mom continues to be the big driver of his panic attacks and his fainting spells. But he is in this state of hypervigilance, and it's warranted, right? It's one of those things with I think trauma responses that I talk about a lot. It's one of those things I talk about with when we're in a state of hypervigilance. We have complex PTSD where the environment itself is triggering. It's like, right, his brain wired as an organ that does threat assessment is correctly assessing that he's under threat. And so I think it's really interesting how that sort of plays out. His mom continues to be a stressor. She's getting older and older. The FBI's case against him is sort of building. And then his mom dies. And that sort of opens up just a big release for him. He sort of sees like the situation with Pussy clearly. And it it's interesting how whether it's setting healthy boundaries, cutting people out who are toxic, or a death can be a really healing thing. And so I thought the show captured at least a piece of that. I have to imagine that continues on through the show and is explored further in season 3. I watched one episode of season 3 this far, just being fully transparent with you guys. I'm not somebody who ascribes to like reaction videos being anything other than the modern version of reality TV. So um yeah. So Tony's mom died and opens up a lot of things. Tony's sister is, um, what is his name? I want to say Archie, but that's not right. Where are we? Where are we? Richie April. I was adding April and Richie together to get Archie, which is wrong. Richie is a mobster. He gets out of prison. He sort of worked under Junior, and now that Tony's in charge, he's kind of chafing at where Tony puts him. He keeps trying to mess with the garbage routes and what they're running with the racket and protection on the garbage routes. But Janice comes back and she starts dating Richie, and Richie like shakes down this pizza place and like hits this guy with this car. So he's doing all these things against Tony's wishes. And Tony's sort of having to like carve out a little bit of extra space for Richie because Janice is marrying him, as seen throughout the season as the season progresses, where they're gonna like buy a big house for him and they throw a bachelorette party. And like Richie sucks. He's an unlikable character. I think he's old school masculinity as understood in the 2000s, right? So like he's the like 1980s machismo, and it's just like Tony's not like woke, right? He's not progressive, dude. He's misogynistic and he has a lot of bad ideas around masculinity, but like Richie's worse. Richie's that one generation older and worse. And so, yeah, Richie's just really unlikable. And while we're seeing the mob mentality, this ecosystem that is the family of the mobsters, like Richie keeps transgressing against the family. And so while these characters are bad people doing bad things and they have their own flaws, like it's sort of this like lovable band of misfits. I'm not agreeing with that overall. I'm just saying that's the way the show is shot. Like you're brought into that inner circle of the family, the mafia family. Is there a difference between the mafia and the mob? I don't know. I've always used those words interchangeably, but maybe that means something different. Um, and like Janice is also unlikable, right? So Tony has two sisters, one we hardly ever see, and then Janice, who's sort of like new age guru, California hippie, but like the worst stereotypes of all those things. And again, this show's 25 years old, so as understood 25 years ago. I think the worst version of hippies has changed in 25 years, but Janice is, in my opinion, like spiritual bypassing personified. She's not coded Christian or anything. She's coded new age woo woo nonsense, but she is like she does none of the emotional baggage while using therapeutic terms and talking in new age terminology as if she's some sort of enlightened person while not having done any of her own emotional work or labor at all. She's unlikable. So we have this couple that's deeply unlikable. Whereas like Tony's cheating on his wife, Carmela is thinking about cheating on Tony somewhat regularly. And that's a whole thing. And like their marriage is unhealthy and they keep sort of coming back to each other in not great, healthy ways. But again, like the show is shot in this way where it's like these are our main characters and we like them because they're the main characters, not because they're particularly likable. But Carmela's a good mom. Carmela cares about the people in her community. And again, like as defined by rich white women. But like the juxtaposition of why Janice, who probably is a little bit more progressive, or I don't know, performatively progressive, Janice is unlikable. Um, But Janice also has like she wants to live in their mom's house. She's going to take care of her mom so she can like ingratiate herself and get some of the whatever is in like any sort of will, or like she and Richie are both sort of that like entitled from different perspectives with different mentalities, but they're very entitled characters. And Tony, for all his many flaws, is sort of a like, I'm gonna put this in quotes, of like respectable, working for his money kind of person. And again, I don't think he is. Like, he's participating in capitalism and he's extracting his wealth from other people's labor. And he's we see him as somebody who is like doing a better job of putting in the time and effort. And so we like that. As Americans, we're wired to think meritocracy. Um, but anyway, Richie's the worst, and his relationship with Janice is unlikable. And eventually, he gets physically violent with her. And for all of Janice's flaws, she's not going to put up with that. And rather than leaving him, she shoots him, which takes care of Tony's other big issue. Tony's mom dies, and Richie gets shot because Richie was slowly, unlikably working on overthrowing Tony. It probably wasn't going to go anywhere. When he tried to make a push to get Junior to take back power, there wasn't a lot of support. People in the mob family seem to like Tony and his work. And so everybody's making money. So while there are little power plays and things, people are mostly happy, and Richie isn't. And so, yeah. And then Janice leaves for that, which is kind of convenient. Now I'm in my head. I'm like, wait, am I too far in season 3 where I'm ahead of things here? I don't think I am. Yeah. Tony's mom continues to be her awful self and play into things. She has dementia, and so she forgets a lot of things, and she continues to just be like a deeply unlikable character, like that emotionally immature, emotionally abusive older parent. And then like, right, you don't get out of it just because you have dementia. So all of those things are going on. Let's see, the kids. Carmela is tries to go to therapy, doesn't like it, and leaves. She's just an interesting character because it's like she knows she's unhappy and she cares deeply about her family. She cares deeply about Tony. And in a way, it's weird watching it in 2025 because I think the way that I see a lot of men struggle to sort of like name their emotions and like communicate effectively, like that's what Carmela was 25 years ago. And so it's one of those things where I have this weird juxtaposition that I wrestle with a lot, where it's like you watch the regressive policies of like the Republican Party, just alt-right movements across the world, and it's like, this is very stupid and bad and wrong. How can people fall for this nonsense? And society writ large, the human population continues to get more progressive, just like what history generally tells us. And so if you can zoom out, you can see like the progress here of society through Carmela being sort of like the most, I'm going to say like, emotionally constipated. Like men is where women were 25 years ago. So I think that's, and again, it's a TV show, right? I can't say that with research behind it. I'm just saying the idea, as a mental health professional, watch it, I'm like, that is how a lot of men are now. And so I think that's really interesting. AJ's getting into his like teen years where Tony's like, I should spend more time with him. And also AJ doesn't want to spend that time with him. The kids are high schooly. One's getting ready to go to college. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. The kids, I don't have a lot to say about. When Tony's mom dies, they have a funeral, much to Tony's chagrin and against mom's wishes. I'm going to pause it because I do want to check to see if I'm even talking about the right season. Whoops. She dies in season 3. So I'm ahead. The funeral is interesting. We'll get to that, I guess, in season 3. It's hard to do these reviews because like there are things I usually want to talk about while I'm watching, but like I've got little kids and I do a podcast and other stuff. So the season long reviews are tough because like it's an hour long show, so I'm not always binging it. Um, well, that's a bummer because that's the other thing. Season 2 ends with what I thought was the Soprano mom death, but not. Um, oh, Christopher gets shot. That's the other thing from season 2. And thinks he goes to heaven or hell, or he's not sure. He sees a white light. It's just DMT, which gets released in your brain before you die. Um, the white light experience is pretty common, and it's not the tunnel or stairway to heaven. Because of Richie, and yeah, Richie's the worst. So Christopher gets shot, has this near death experience, but then he gets made. He's a made man coming out of that. So like, good for Christopher. You sort of hope Christopher turns out okay, knowing in a show like this he absolutely won't. Um, Yeah. So then Tony has to kill Pussy eventually, and that's sort of where we're at. And like that's sad, right? Like, what a miserable ending to his arguably his best friend. The last year, 18 months of his life is spent in tension with his lifelong friend. His lifelong friend cannot trust him. There's all this drama surrounding it. Worried about the FBI. Pussy's funny because he's like just delusional about working with the FBI, that he's going to like become an agent and he's going to get like protective custody, and then he's going to go back to college and study like criminal psychology or something. And his FBI agent at some point does start to be like, this guy is not all there. But I think that's the representation around chronic stress is pretty accurate for both of them. Pussy's very withdrawn from his partner, from his kids, from all the interactions with the Soprano family. So yeah, I think again the mental health representation of characters moving through their lives is pretty accurate. The family stress is very accurate. The unhappy relationships and those dynamics are pretty accurate. The therapist, unfortunately, in season 2 is less accurate. We'll get into Tony's mom dying in season 3. Spoilers for season 3. My fault, gang. I did say not the spoiler-free version. I will. Season 3 starts, I think. Gosh, don't quote me on this now, because who knows where I'm at in the actual season 3 timeline. There's an episode where they just have to get a wire in the Soprano house, and like, it's a wonderful episode of television. Yeah. Maybe that isn't the start of season 3, and I thought Tony's mom dying was the conclusion of season 2, because that seems like the wrap up. Anyways, I'll have to prep season 3 with the Wikipedia episode summaries. So yeah, Sopranos season 2, very good. It's interesting because the other universally beloved TV show that I also liked is The Wire, and I never finished it. And somewhere in season 4, I just stopped watching. When the guy who ends up playing Littlefinger in Game of Thrones came into the show, I stopped watching for like no good reason. It wasn't that I like didn't like it; I just stopped. But as a general rule, the contrarian nature of my neurodivergence is when everybody loves something, I'm going to dislike it, and when people are like that sucked, I often find a way to enjoy it. That's not always an intentional choice. I'm not trying to be difficult. And yeah, so I think I didn't watch the show for a long time because I was raised super conservative Christian and we didn't have cable, so we never had access to it. But even in college, when I did have access to pretty much all media through in person-to-person sharing network, that's probably not legal, but you know, college in the early aughts, the internet was still new enough where stuff like that was fun and exciting, and somehow I didn't crash all my computers with viruses. I just wasn't interested because I think everybody else like said it was the best show ever. Like, but it is a very good show. It pulls you in and you're invested. So I will continue with season 3, obviously, as I'm partway through it. like, subscribe, do those YouTube-y things, drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts or if there are things you would like to see. I don't know why my name's in blue down here in the corner. It should be orange. I don't know what's going on. I'll have to figure out my recording setup here. Still doing the green screen, still from the flooded basement. These things happen. So yeah, like, subscribe, drop down. Let me know what else you want to see or hear. What else? Oh, probably do a review of the Frankenstein movie. That's out on Netflix right now. I've started it. It starts really slow. So whenever I finish that, I'll do a review of that. I don't know, sort of like holiday season. So not that that's particularly meaningful to me personally, but yeah, I don't have a ton of stuff charted out for what I'm going to review when. So comments, drop down. Let me know what you want to hear me talk about. All right, take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. Peace.